Hi, this is Kowski for AP Gov Review, and in this quick video segment, we're going to be talking about gerrymandering. Now, if you look at this particular graph here of the incumbency factor for congressional elections, in particular, look at House incumbents. This discussion of gerrymandering does not affect the Senate, but of course does impact the House. Notice this green line stays above 90%, and there are a variety of factors as to why this incumbency factor is so high. But one of the major reasons is due to gerrymandering. Notice these oddly shaped type of districts. They are what you call gerrymandered. They are carved out for a specific purpose. It is no accident that they have these very funny shapes, and we're going to be getting into that right now. So by definition, it is the redrawing of election district boundaries to maximize, notice the word maximize, the number of legislative seats that can be won by the political party in charge of redrawing the district boundaries. So based on the census that's conducted every 10 years, states will either lose some seats, gain some seats, or the number of seats will stay the same. But every 10 years, whether it's 2020 or back 10 years or 7 years ago in 2010, the state legislature is in charge of creating the boundaries. Now, some states do have bipartisan commissions. Other states just allow the state legislature to design it. Well, if you have a Republican or Democratic legislature, they're going to gerrymander the districts for the House of Representatives. So if you're a Democrat, you are going to create safe seats for the party's incumbent legislatures. You're going to be trying to carve out districts that are going to help your particular party, and the same thing goes with the Republican Party. Opposition legislators can be kidnapped into hostile districts and defeated. So, for example, where Democrats typically get a lot more support from city areas, if a Republican legislature was trying to, win a seat, they might move that Democrat outside of the city limits and put that person in a very difficult district, and that would make it more difficult to win the election. Now, every state, as I've talked about, has a state legislature, and they are in charge of redrawing the boundaries every 10 years. Now, there are two, in particular, restrictions. They cannot be used to harm racial or ethnic minority groups, and they must be contiguous, meaning that the line has to follow throughout the entire district. You can't have two separate parts that are not connected in some way. And every seat is roughly between 650,000 and 700,000 people. And again, here you see some interesting gerrymandered districts here. This one being one of my favorite, back in 2004 in Texas, their 25th district. Notice how that was heavily gerrymandered. Now, in terms of gerrymandering, there are two different types of ways that you can go about this. Notice if you had a Republican plan here, and you could pack the district, and you could, in this case, have two Democratic seats here and just one Democratic seat. But if you wanted to crack this, meaning giving more of an advantage for the Democrats from the Democratic plan, you would simply divide it this way. So again, if these were all equal population in the Republican plan, they would at least get one seat. But with the Democratic plan, you could crack, meaning split up the Republican majority district into three, thus giving a 2/3 advantage to the Democrats. So as you see, with cracking, you're splitting up the group of voters so they do not constitute a majority in any district. And again, here's a very weird looking one, the earmuff district shape here, that connects two Hispanic neighborhoods while remaining contiguous. Technically, they are contiguous, and this is a legal gerrymandered district because they are gerrymandered right here on Highway 294. If you look at the United States in terms of all districts, notice the amount of gerrymandering. But you might say, well, why isn't there any gerrymandering out here? Well, due to a limited amount of population, they only get one member in the House of Representatives. In Nebraska, you see two, so you can't really have that many. But in more populated areas, you're going to see that gerrymandering takes a major effect here. Now, other factors, again, reapportionment and redistricting happens every 10 years by the state legislature. It is important, too, to note that malapportionment is a concern because districts at times have been created with different populations, giving votes in less populated districts more clout. So, for example, in Montana, they have close to about 1 million people in their district. And in Rhode Island, they have about 500,000. They have to be roughly equal in size, but you see that does not always happen. Again, has to be equal in population. Redistricting must occur. District lines must be contiguous. Race cannot be used, and it cannot be used also to dilute racial minorities' voting strength. Last part here is Baker v. Carr. This means that one man, one vote. Tennessee didn't redistrict in years, giving rural advantages to these districts, or advantages to the rural districts, in an unfair way as compared to the urban areas, and this created what was called malapportionment. So when you gerrymander, it has to be equal in size, roughly within your state, and if it's not, it violates the Supreme Court case Baker v. Carr, establishing the one man, one vote